Subject sparked conversation and controversy, quite like name, image, and likeness, or NIL. Nobody knows the ins and outs as well as Jim Cavale. He's the founder and chairman of Athletes.org, an organization that bills itself as the Players Association for college athletes. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely, man.
All right, so first of all, do you believe we're getting close to the point to where there are gonna need to be some guardrails when it comes to NIL?
Well, absolutely, but the reality is NIL has been less about what it truly means, which is endorsements for athletes off the field, and more about what it wasn't meant to be, which is pay for play.
Right.
Ultimately, schools have collectives that are raising money from donors, and they're using it to induce athletes to play for their football team or their basketball team.
Right.
And that really can't be structured because the money's coming from the side. It's coming from donors.
Right.
If the money came from the actual schools that the athletes help generate the money for, there'd be contracts, transparency. You could even limit how often athletes transfer, which I know is a big issue with fans.
It is.
But all of that structure would be more tied to revenue sharing from the schools than structure around NIL.
So it sounds like NIL is here; it's not going anywhere.
No.
Like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So it sounds like you're kind of saying schools need to embrace it and do it well, do it right, to where everybody wins.
Schools do need to embrace it, but the reason NIL happened is because of a guy named Ed O'Bannon who won a national championship in UCLA in the mid-90s. He helped push a court case that went against the NCAA for the improper use of his NIL in the NCAA basketball video game that EA Sports made. He won in the mid-2010s, and by 2021 we had NIL. Just like all that happened and created NIL, you have multiple court cases right now, like House versus the NCAA, Johnson versus the NCAA, and others with the National Labor Relations Board that the NCAA is going to lose or settle. Those will create precedents to make it so that the schools will actually start sharing the revenue with the athletes that help create it.
What do you say to those who say, because you hear this a lot, the NIL's ruining college football, ruining college athletics? What do you say to those folks?
I think that, athletes deserve to share in the revenue they help create. And we got here because coaches started getting crazy salaries with crazy buyouts. There's more than $500 million being paid to fired coaches right now. And those salaries, as the media deals got bigger and the numbers got bigger and the Pac-12's now been destroyed because schools are chasing bigger media checks in the Big Ten, et cetera. All of that greed and ambition that's very public is why we have the transfer portal. It's why we have NIL, and it's why we have to figure out how we have structure for the athletes to share in all of this money that's being created.
Too much ground to cover, Jim. Too much ground to cover. We're out of time, but I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
Appreciate what you're doing also right here in Birmingham. Nobody knows it better than you, so thanks. Let's continue this. We'll have part 2 sometime
all right,
on
sounds
this conversation.
Good. Thank you.
As we head to break, a live look over Birmingham. This is from our